Why waste food on that bum?
You're embarrassing us.
The church ladies taunted as Mary handed the same homeless man a meal every Sunday. She didn't say anything, but one tear fell down her cheek as the muttering grew louder. One morning, as the sound of hymns filled the air, the doors of the church swung open. 12 Marines in their full uniform entered. What did these soldiers owe Mary?
And
Who was the gentleman she never stopped feeding? Welcome to Deep Story Dispatch. Let's cut to the chase. Mary Thompson, age 58, silver pepper hair framing a worn face, prepared meals for the small Nebraska church group every Sunday. After morning service, Mary would go out of her way to package a hot meal and deliver it out to the church steps where Sam stood waiting. A silver-bearded homeless man in a frayed brown coat, people whispered as she passed. She embarrasses us. Let the shelters sort him out. If she was interested in real charity, she'd help someone more needy. The head of the women's ministry ridiculed her aloud. Mary, he'll just spend it on alcohol. After Mary discovered a meal she had prepared had been pushed out onto the street, half-eaten by stray dogs, she silently scooped up the container, scrubbed it spotless, and prepared another fresh meal the next day. Young David, the minister's 10-year-old son, asked her, "Why do you help him if everybody else hates it?" "Because I know how it feels to have nothing," Mary replied quietly. Week after week she bore the disapproval, the slanted eyes during prayer, the pointed remarks during Bible study, the implications that her charity was misguided at best, enabling at worst. Pastor Williams stayed silent, though his silence seemed like approval with her critics. Mary means well, he would say when pushed. Oh, but maybe her efforts could be redirected. The church building committee grumbled that Sam's presence depressed property values. The outreach ministry volunteered that Mary should serve at an official shelter rather than encouraging vagrancy. Yet every Sunday, Mary prepared an extra meal. Yet she walked to the church steps. Yet she greeted Sam with the same warm smile. Only once did her composure break when she overheard the women's ministry group debating their plan to ask Pastor Williams to officially prohibit her from serving Sam. In the church kitchen, alone amidst pots and pans, Mary finally gave herself a moment of quiet tears. No one suspected that Mary's unspoken tears became a river of gratitude, and that Sam was never truly alone. Mary had lost her husband in a construction accident 15 years before, left to raise her son alone. She knew the shame of food stamps, the fear of overdue notices, the pain of watching her child go without. There had been a time when she too survived on church meals to feed her family. Sam, though few remembered, was a former Marine who had once been the town hero. 20 years earlier, he'd charged into a burning apartment building, rescuing a child before firefighters arrived. But for PTSD from his work in Desert Storm, the injuries gradually devoured him. He lost his family, his home, his sobriety. Mary first met Sam on Christmas Eve, finding him unconscious behind the church, shivering in the Nebraska cold. She spoon-fed him soup, wrapped a warm blanket around his shoulders, and whispered prayers over him until color returned to his face. The first time Sam wept openly before her was when she called him by his name. "Nobody's called me by my name in years." Sam had repeatedly spurned others' aid, his pride wounded by pity, but Mary's steady kindness given without questions or judgment slowly broke through his walls. One Wednesday afternoon, young David saw Sam sharing his meal with a stray dog. David excitedly reported to his mother, "Sam is kind even when he has nothing." Quietly, Mary supported Sam in getting his identification papers back. The rest of the community remained apathetic. Some members of the church even took the food Mary left behind and tossed it into the trash bin when she was not around. Pastor Williams recommended that Mary donate the food to the church food bank instead. That way we can be sure that it reaches worthy families. Mary never protested, never complained. She just kept going, thinking that good things always come back home. What no one knew was that Sam had begun attending AA meetings, that he spent 3 nights a week sleeping in a homeless shelter, that he kept a small notebook where he itemized his successes, small victories in a fight with his demons. What no one saw was Sam leaving wildflowers on the grave of Mary's husband, cleaning the headstone with tender fingers. What nobody heard were Sam's calls to a soldier buddy, speaking for the first time in years about the nightmares, guilt, shame of having survived when others hadn't. Mary made a ripple without being aware of where the world would carry it. Sunday dinner with them meant not just nourishment, but acknowledgement of Sam's humanity when all the rest saw was a problem. When Mary's car broke down, she walked 3 miles so Sam would eat a Sunday dinner. When she had the flu, she ordered food from the diner to take to him. Snow, criticism, and personal hardships notwithstanding, Mary's kindnesses were the sole reference point in Sam's chaotic life, a beacon guiding him to shores he had thought forever beyond his grasp. That fateful Sunday morning, prior to worship, the women's ministry group ambushed Pastor Williams, demanding that he confront the Mary situation publicly. Church members silenced in anticipation, waiting to see her humiliated. Mary sat in her usual pew, unaware of the impending storm. Sam was nowhere to be found in his usual location outside. When the sanctuary trembled with the opening hymn, heavy footsteps echoed in the entrance hall. The sweeping oak doors opened dramatically. 12 dressed blues of the Marines marched in perfect formation down the center aisle. There, leading them, stood the tall and imposing Captain James Gray, holding a folded flag in a metal box. The congregation hung frozen in the middle of a hymn. Pastor Williams was stunned speechless at the pulpit. The Marines formed up facing Mary's pew. In perfect unison, they saluted her. Their organized respect a far cry from the treatment of the church. "We have come for the woman who had fed our brother when the rest of us had forgotten him." Behind the Marines strode Sam, shaved, looking tall and pressed in a sharp uniform, tears running unashamedly down his cheeks. "Mary had saved my life more than once. Her food was hope. Her kindness was the reason that I had screamed for help." Captain Gray moved forward, his voice booming through the now quiet sanctuary. "Sam was our sergeant in Iraq. When he went missing, we searched for years. We found him again because Mary felt like he was worth rescuing." The comparison was remarkable. The same church that had belittled Mary now sat in wonder. The head of the women's ministry, who just moments earlier had been campaigning for Mary to be reprimanded, now stood agog at her shoes and shame. Captain Gray explained how Sam had led a risky rescue mission, bringing his entire team to safety under fire. How Sam had risked his own life repeatedly for his comrades. How his disappearance had left a void in their unit that would never be filled. 3 months ago, Sam finally called up his old unit. He told us he was ready to go home, because someone had reminded him that he was still remembered. Pastor Williams threw away his pre-written sermon, stepping down from the pulpit in silent recognition of the greater message being uncovered. The woman who led the women's ministry swayed unsteadily, moving toward Mary with open arms. "I had made a mistake. I am sorry." Young David wriggled free of his mother's grasp, hurrying to embrace Mary. "I wish to be as compassionate as you." Captain Gray presented Mary with a commemoration medal, reading from an official letter to Mary Thompson, who had viewed a hero rather than a burden. Sam knelt before Mary, taking her worn hands in his. "You never inquired as to why I was homeless. You never demanded that I change. You just showed up every Sunday, no matter the weather. Your food filled my belly, but your consistency gave life to my spirit." The 12 Marines stood around Mary and Sam, a circle of brotherhood that encompassed the woman who had saved their sergeant's life when they were powerless to do so. Pastor Williams, his voice trembling, addressed his congregation. "Today I learned about faith in action, not committees, not programs, not buildings, but one individual gazing at the divine in another when all the rest had looked away." A member of the church recorded the scene on video. Within evening hours, it covered military social media outlets. The next day, the national news caught up with the story. Reporters flocked to the tiny Nebraska town, making it the epicenter of Kindness Week, a viral sensation honoring ordinary heroes. Contrast between the church's history of treatment of Mary and the Marines. Profound respect produced a tale too large to ignore. Those who had cried loudest in condemning her were now presented with difficult questions by the media. As the church dispersed that Sunday, the Marines served as an honor guard for Mary. The congregation, who shed tears openly, witnessed the power of genuine service as she walked out, Sam by her side, 12 Marines standing at attention. Pastor Williams watched them leave, his prepared sermon notes in hand, replaced by an unplanned lesson no seminary could provide. Mary was showered with thank you cards, flowers, and mail from across the country, mostly from veterans, homeless veterans, and even those who once mocked her. The church overnight, Sunday meals for all, where everyone gave, was initiated by the women's ministry. Sam became an honored guest, his name mentioned in prayer and announcements of service. Pastor Williams spoke a set of sermons on actual service, how faith in action establishes itself, not by words but by actions. The crowds came out, not from glitzy programs, but from rediscovered genuineness. Sam, with the assistance of his Marine brothers, joined a rehabilitation program for veterans. He transformed into a good speaker, describing his journey from hero to homeless to recovery. His journey led hundreds of other veterans back from the brink. 3 homeless veterans who had been motivated by Sam's tale mustered up the courage to seek help. 2 families were reunited, and one suicide attempt was prevented. Young David, profoundly affected by witnessing both cruelty and redemption at so young an age, became a doctor in the military. When he was commissioned years later, he spoke of Mary during his speech. Mary's grace saved 2 lives, Sam and I. She taught me what courage was, doing what is right in the midst of everyone saying that you are wrong. The church commissioned a painting, Mary, Sam, and 12 Marines prominently displayed on the sanctuary. Under it a simple inscription, kindness is never wasted, it always finds its way home. The women who once disapproved of Mary now led efforts to bring meals to homeless shelters. The building committee that worried about property values now set aside space for meals to the community. Mary never sought accolades. She continued to cook meals, now with many eager hands to help. Sam became a go-between for military and civilian communities, making the wounds of war invisible no more. His Marine unit created Mary's Fund in her name to help veterans who have trouble with PTSD. State tradition became Mary's Day each year, celebrating quiet heroes whose everyday kindness alters lives without expectation or fanfare. When asked about her decades of being ridiculed for helping Sam, Mary simply said, "I never thought about if he deserved my help. I just knew he needed it." Sometimes we don't need to know anything else about a person. Pastor Williams, reprimanded by how much he had misinterpreted, instituted a new church policy. We will no longer turn someone away who is in need because they don't match our vision of someone deserving assistance. The greatest impact of the story was felt in the countless moments unseen when someone opted to be kind rather than judgmental. Recalling Mary and the miracle that was wrought from humble Sunday dinners, at times a solitary meal might redeem a soul that appears beyond saving. Mary never inquired about Sam's history, never asked for thanks. She just continued to do what was right. Eventually that determination opened the largest door of honor. That day it wasn't just 12 Marines who rose up for Mary. An entire town remembered the value of kindness. The church still stands. Mary continues to serve Sunday dinners, but now no one sits alone on. When we give food to a stranger, we never know whether we are giving food to a hero who had lost his way home. If you think that even the smallest act of kindness can transform a life in ways that last a lifetime, subscribe to Q Incredible Stories. Here we celebrate those whose kindness resonates far beyond their own.